everybody, Caleb here at the Rosa Stringworks Workshop. Today we've got this 1945 Martin 0017 and it needs a lot of work. I'm going to go ahead and set it down and bring you in close to show you what we got going on here. So you can probably already see this guitar is missing the bridge entirely. It's also kind of sunk in at the pick guard because the pick guard is probably shrunk. You might be able to see here we got a crack on the top. The center seam is starting to come up here. There's a crack here, pretty bad. I'm not sure you can totally see it though. There you can see the line. So that's pretty bad, but also you can hear the braces moving on the inside. So there's some braces loose on the top. Then we go to the back. There's a crack here, here. The center seam is also kind of showing up. There's some cracks around the seam of the back, joining the sides. Somebody screwed this neck on. I don't think this is original. Martin probably did not do this. There are braces loose on the back. This thing is probably going to have to come apart to be fixed right. If we look at the headstock, here's something we see all the time. These tuners, these top ones, are really bent. That's from falling over and hitting these. These get bent real bad. These are really bent. I also think this guitar has been refinished because it doesn't show up very well on camera, but this, the color that's in here, and it would be over the Martin logo, is very different from what's over the body. So it looks like the body's been stripped and refinished at some point. Really the first thing we need to do here is take this thing apart. And I think the way to do that is we're going to take the back off. I'm going to start by taking these out. I kind of wonder why somebody did this. What problem they were having that caused them to screw this neck on. It looks like this was glued on at some point, but the glue didn't stick very well to the metal. Well, I've been working on this Martin guitar, trying to get the back off. And this wood has had a good 75 years to get nice and brittle. It's tried to break it every chance it's had. It has not been going easy by any means. And on this one, it really is slow and steady winning this race. I get too carried away, I end up cracking something I don't want to crack. I've been using the X-Acto knife a little bit to moderate success. I'll try heating my knife up all the way to just the neck block. That's all that's left. Having a lot of difficulty getting this. Well, it just popped. I got it off. I've got a little bit of damage up here, but considering how old this thing is and how brittle it is, it's a little bit of a surprise we got away with as little damage as we got. You can probably see how loose these are. Can you see there? It says CF Martin Co. Nazareth, Pennsylvania. They don't have a label on the inside, just the stamp. So we got this thing open. Here's two braces from the top. It just fell off. And you see here, this one's broken all the way up to where it joins. None of these other braces look to be in all that bad a condition. There's just tons of cracks on this guitar. Oh, you can see the tail block is totally split. Totally split all the way across. I don't even know what's holding that in. That's gonna be fun. So I started to take a look at the back of this old Martin, and I've actually gone ahead and cut out a whole bunch of mahogany cleats. I assume I'll use them throughout this whole guitar, but I've cut out a few small ones I think I'm going to use to cleat these cracks. There's one here that's real obvious, and there's also one here that's kind of harder to see. But I think I'm going to get some cleats made to go on these cracks so that when I start gluing these braces back down, I can glue these cracks up as well. Well, I'm just about ready to start gluing stuff onto this back. You can see I've already got a couple of the clamps down, and that's just to try to push this back down flat because it's got kind of a curve to it. And I'm actually going to have to clamp in a couple spots where I'm not putting any glue, because like on this brace where it's lifted here, it's not lifted on this side, but I am going to have to clamp this side down so that the back sits flat. But I've already cleaned out underneath and on the underside of this brace and this brace, cleaned out where these two go. I've got all my cleats made, but I am going to glue the braces down first so I know that the back is sitting flat before I put the cleats in. So I'm going to get to it.
Before you do that, before you even clean it at all,
okay,
use this clamp, and you'll have to put leather on both sides of this. Open these up, you know, and then this tightens it up. Put glue in there as good as you can get it in there, tight bond, and you know, put, again, leather on both sides, and then tighten these down, and then tighten this up, and it'll pull that crack together, and that way that crack will be airtight.
Okay.
Because otherwise it won't be airtight. You know, whenever,
yeah,
if we try to refinish it later.
Right.
That'll pull it really tight together, and it'll squeeze the glue out. And anyway, do that first as a separate step. Don't try to do the cleats and everything at once. You can do this while you're doing that.
Okay.
That'll be okay. But you might want to slide a piece of wax paper under there too, possibly, just as a precaution. Make sense?
Where's my phone?
I probably took your phone there.
You
And
have mine?
I got my phone in my pocket.
All right, just making sure.
All right.
We're good. Okay, I can do this.
Okay.
Wax paper.
Yeah, paint the tight bond down in that crack good. It'll just be better. A better repair.
Well, I think you just heard, but you may not have seen what Jerry came over to give me. This clamp here, and we're going to pull this crack in before we move on to much else. I think I'm going to do this first before I do really anything else. I'm going to slightly disassemble what I already have. So I got ahead and got this clamp kind of set up here. So what Jerry said to do was try to get tight bond in this crack. And the second I turn the camera on, I can't get any glue out of the bottle. The only thing I worry about is this not being flat. It doesn't look it, but I can't get it to move, so I guess it is. I think it's looking pretty good. There's definitely some glue in there. What I'm going to do next is clamp down the braces, get them gluing up, but I'm not going to do anything with the cleats yet. I'm going to wait for this to totally dry before I do anything with the cleats. Those two are clamped up. I think I'm going to leave them like that. And then when I come back to do the cleats, I'll do these two as well. I'm just going to let this dry as it is. Spend a little bit of time cleaning up the squeeze out. Well, while the back of this Martin is drying, I've started looking at the top and the sides, and you can see all the way across here, this whole block is cracked all the way through. I've actually got it just dry clamped right now, just making sure it's going to line up when I do clamp it. The further I get on this side of this crack, the less it lines up, but the more moves, like it's less impacted by this clamped. Well, I think this is how we're gonna do it. Getting the whole thing clamped makes it line up pretty well. So what I'm gonna do now is take all these clamps off, take my tight bond and my paintbrush, and get it all the way through here and clamp this up.
I know that I've got mine, but somehow all this leaving is weighing on my mind. Leaving is the only way, I know that is true, but no matter where I go, there's a memory of you. How do you take a memory and put it away for good? Somehow I can't forget them all, though the good Lord knows I should.
I just pulled this back out of the clamp and I've set the cleats on. Just trying to get them lined up where I'm going to want them. I think what I'm going to do is, once I get glue on these, I'm going to put these locks on here and then clamp these down. These are the clamps. That way I don't have to put the whole thing in the big clamp and use up all that space just to get this done, when I'm pretty sure I can just get it done from here. So I'm kind of picking out my clamps, deciding what I'm going to use where. But once I get that done, I'm going to glue this thing up.
We've tumbled and we've tussled till my heart's bruised black and blue. And baby, you've hurt me, and I know that I've hurt you. Well, I still cry sometimes, even though I'm happier now. 'Cause even when I'm with someone else, you're always there somehow. 'Cause how do you take a memory and put it away for good? Somehow I can't forget them all, though the good Lord knows I should.
Now that I've got the back glued up with those cleats, I'm going to start working on gluing these braces that are broken or loose. There's a couple of them that are pretty loose, but not so loose that they're coming out. So I'm just going to use the bottle to get the glue in and then push my paintbrush in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get the glue in where I want it here, and then actually the clamp is over that way, kind of behind me. So I'm going to glue it up, get the glue in where I want it, and then take it over and clamp it, because it's hard to get around the whole body when it's in the clamp. So here we go.
Take a memory and put it.
I just pulled the clamps off the cleats on this Martin guitar here. There's still a little bit of a mess to clean up, but that's okay. I can get to that. But because I got the clamps off, that means I can now go use them, start cleating the inside of the guitar. So I'm going to get that clamped up before I take the time to clean this up. While I'm cleaning up the some of the glue on these cleats, I think it's probably worth mentioning that the grain on these cleats is running in this direction, where the rest of the grain on the back is running in this direction. And that should help strengthen these up. They're not going to break across the grain, so it won't follow this crack again. And that is true for all the cleats that we do. It's just, I don't mention it very often, but this is the way the grain's running. And even on the front and sides, if we put a cleat in, it will be running perpendicular to the grain that we put it on. Also generally true, these are mahogany cleats on a mahogany back, and seeing as this whole guitar is mahogany, they're all mahogany cleats. It's just a little bit nicer to have the same wood as the cleat for the wood that you're cleating. So I'm looking at the top of this Martin guitar, and you can see that there's this crack right here. Actually, it was sitting fairly closed there for a second, but I've already cut out some cleats for this crack, but I'm kind of thinking I need to fill it with some glue and get it clamped. I'm not exactly sure how I want to clamp it though, because it's not really open in this direction. It's kind of open this way. So my real worry is squeezing glue out on the top and making a mess when I can't clean it up that well. You know, if it were face down in the clamp system with the bars, I could probably clamp it in there, but I worry about it squeezing out on the top and making a mess that's going to totally dry before I can clean it up. I may not have much of a choice though. I might just have to get some glue in there, kind of push it together by hand, clean up what I can, and then put it in the clamp. I'll have to ask Jerry what he thinks, but I think that's probably going to be what we end up doing. So I decided to just put it in and clamp it up. So I've got these pressing it flat so that it will be, you know, it'll end up flat. I've got some wax paper underneath the guitar so it doesn't stick to the bottom. I put the glue in from the inside rather than from the outside, so most of the mess was on the inside, and I did turn it over and I saw that I had some glue squeezing out on the outside of the instrument. Kind of cleaned it up best I could, put it in here, got it clamped up. I'm going to let this dry for a little while, and then I'm going to put in the cleats on these cracks. Well, these have set up for long enough. I'm going to take these blocks off and glue these cleats in. Alright, so there's 6 cleats across the bottom crack. I'm going to let those dry for a while. Make sure they're good and set. Well, the cleats on the inside of this old Martin have been drying for quite a while. So, I think they're good. We can move on from them. Something I noticed, we've got a crack in the top that you can't see from the inside. There you can see it. And it just runs along the edge and it kind of starts over the top here. I think I'm going to go ahead and glue this up. It's going to take a little odd clamping because not only do I need to push it down, this side needs to come in, be pushed in to really get that crack closed. So I'm going to have to clamp it down this way and see if I can't find something to pull it in this way to get that closed. I think that's what I'm going to do next. Just getting everything re-glued and closed up. Well, I've got it clamped up. I've got a couple of these clamps to pull down. And then this bigger one, I had to get one that was obviously much too large because I was having trouble finding one that was even large enough. But these are the lighter weight ones. These are aluminum. So it's not too big. We've got this pressed up pretty well. So I'm going to set this aside to dry. Move on to something else. So on the back of this old Martin here, there used to be this plate with screws in it. It was also attached to the neck, and I don't think we're planning on putting that back on. So I went ahead and made some little mahogany plugs to fill those holes so it will match the rest, and the grains aren't in the same way as the rest of the back. So I just used a little punch to punch out a thin piece of mahogany. They fit real well into these holes. I don't knock them out. So I'm going to glue them in, and at some point down the line we can dye them to match the rest of the back. Well, back to work on this old Martin. I started looking at making a bridge for it because it's missing its original one. So I've got this piece of rosewood that is just about the right length, and it's actually a little wider this way, which should help cover up some of the scar of the old one. It'll also make sure that we've got enough room to put the saddle where we need it. But it's still obviously way too tall, so I'm going to start working on taking it down next. Well, I'm going in the right direction. It's still probably a little thick on the ends, but I'm making progress. You can see here I've started kind of scooping out the ends of this. This will end up larger than the old one, I think, but that will really help cover up some of the mess that was on there. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking this over to the thickness sander and just thicknessing up to a certain point, because it rolls and it'll do this bevel up. I've got a line here where I'm stopping, so it should just give me a nice clean bevel, and it's working pretty well, but I'm going to have to thin these out just a little bit more before it's done. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep working on this bridge, get it good and shaped just like it should be. Well, I've got this bridge just about to the shape I want it in. I've gone ahead and rounded off the corners so it's not sharp to put your hand against. It is kind of the wrong color, but that's an easy fix. I did end up thinning down these edges to about 100 thousandths at the suggestion of Jerry. I did take a little bit more off the top as well. I think I'm going to have Jerry take a look at it before I go gluing anything on, but we're getting awfully close to where this bridge needs to be. Well, Jerry came over and took a look at this, and before I go any further, I'm going to replace the bridge plate. We could go into a long conversation about originality versus functionality, how this is the original one, but a Paduk bridge plate will make this a lot stronger. But really, the biggest thing here is Jerry told me to replace it, so I'm replacing it. Yell at him, not me. So, I've just about got it out. It is underneath these braces, so I think I'm going to just have to get my X-Acto and kind of cut it to get it all the way out a little easier. So I started just kind of scoring this, and I want to be clear. This is a piece of junk wood. You know, this is like a really cheap piece you can find out of a 2x4, and that is why Jerry wants to replace it. So the grounds for replacing it are very valid. Don't think that they're not. It's very soft. You would think would be not a good thing in a bridge plate. Well, I've got this new Paduk bridge plate made, and it's fitting very well pressed up in here. It's definitely going to be a lot better than this cheap piece of wood that was in there. And it's definitely making me think it's a soft wood. It just cut too easy and broke too easy. So anyway, we're going to have a much higher quality piece of Paduk in there now. So, looking at what I can do to get that glued in there. Got a couple clamps. I might just go through the sound hole and use the caul to a little more evenly distribute the pressure. I think that's not looking to be a bad idea. I've got the bridge pad here, and I've gone ahead and cleaned off the back with acetone, take off any of the oil on the Paduke. I'm pretty much ready to start putting glue on this. You can see there's parchment paper on the other side of the holes for the bridge pins, just so that any glue that gets in there won't stick to anything, won't have any problems.
Wait for good. Somehow I can't forget them all, though the good Lord knows I should. 'Cause how do you take?
Well, you can see I've got this new bridge pad all clamped in. I fit 4 different clamps in there through the sound hole, and I got them kind of spaced out on there, so I got some even pressure. I do actually have another board on the underside, so on the outside of the guitar, to help kind of keep it flat. I'm gonna set this aside and give it some time to dry. So when I started this Martin, we were just gonna repair it, get it up in a playing order, and then be done. But at the advice of Jerry, the customer has decided he wants it refinished. This that's on it, well, where there is finish on it is definitely not the original finish. It's been stripped back here and here. There's no finish. Where the bridges come off and all around it, there's no finish. Everywhere else, it looks like it's just been kind of stained. So we are going to put some real finish on this. I am right now trying to very carefully remove this pick guard. It should make refinishing this a whole lot easier. We might even be able to get rid of some of this kind of bowl this pick guard is pulled. I'm just very carefully sliding this underneath, just a little bit more at a time. Not trying to get too greedy. Don't want to break it. Oh, big jump. Not much left. Nope. I don't like pops. You end up something broken that way. There we go. I think the thing to do here is I'm going to kind of keep this warm, put something heavy on it, flat, just to make sure this stays flat. Because we don't want it doing anything silly. I'm kind of surprised how clean that came off. But that's really going to help us out when it comes time to strip off what's on here. I think I'm going to go ahead and take the tuners off next, just to take them off. I am pretty sure we're going to glue the back on before we refinish this, but taking the tuners off is pretty easy, and I'll probably try to knock the nut out as well. Just trying to get rid of anything that might be in excess, especially the easy stuff. Well, I'm getting ready to glue the back on this. It's going to be best to do it before we decide to do anything else. And the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to start by just gluing up to the waist. Getting that clamped up, maybe give it a little bit to dry, and then we're going to make sure the neck angle is right before we glue the top portion of the back. This way I can get this all lined up, don't have to worry about anything but just lining it up and getting it clamped in. After we get the back on, we can start working on the finish.
Take a memory and put it away for good. Somehow I can't forget them all, though the good Lord knows I should.
to be wanting to start on mine soon.
Build your own acoustic?
Yeah.
You gonna build it from a kit or you gonna build it from scratch?
Well, provided I can get some help, I'd like to build it from scratch.
I don't know where you could get any of that.
Well, in the last clip, you saw me clamping up the top portion of this back. And I did that after I had the neck clamped in. Like this. This bar runs, and then I've got it wedged to push the neck back at the right angle. So after I'd done that, I glued up the last part of the neck, and it sat overnight. Now I'm going through and cleaning up any little bit of squeeze out we have. And get this finished up, and we can start working on the finish of this guitar. Well, I've started stripping this, and I started on the back, which is probably the best place to start. So if you have to cover anything up, it's on the back. I did most of this with the scraper, just giving it a good scrape, and a lot of that is all in pressure. I don't want to press too hard or I'm going to take chunks out, and I really don't want to do that. So it was just kind of a light scrape, and it turned out really good. There's no waviness to it. You can see where I've done and where I haven't, and all the unevenness here, and much more uniform where I've scraped. I did a little bit of sanding in here, and it does help even it out a little bit, but I am going to start working on the other side now, and most of it's going to be with the scraper.
Every time you're not around, I'm by myself, I get to feeling down. If someone calls out your name, well, I get to thinking of the days gone by when you were standing by my side. I'm blue all over again. I'm blue for you, darling. I can't try to pretend I'm not, 'cause I'm blue all over again.
Well, I've been working on this for quite a while. It's taken quite a bit of time, and I've got the whole back scraped and the sides scraped. I haven't started on the top yet, but I'm actually pretty happy with this. It's not quite perfect yet. There's still a few spots, especially up and around the neck, because it's kind of hard to get to with the neck. Where the cracks were, they're a little harder to get because they're actually kind of divoted in. So it's going to need a little bit more work, but this is coming along pretty well. It's looking pretty good. And it's taken quite a bit of time, like about two hours to get this done with a scraper. But I can't imagine how long it would take trying to sand this whole thing. It'd take, at least twice as long trying to sand it and get to this point. Still got a ways to go though. I mean, doing the top's going to be a little bit of work, especially avoiding the fretboard. I might have to talk to Jerry about what we want to do on the neck and the back of the headstock. I don't think we're going to do much on the front of the headstock, because we're going to knock off the Martin logo if we do too much. So I want to keep at it, start working on getting this top all scraped off. Well, I think we've got this sanded well enough. I'm going to start putting some color on there, which is why I've got my gloves on. I've got the light brown leather dye. This is what I'm going to use. Put some color on this. I'm going to make sure it's well mixed, good and shook up before I do anything. Well, it's looking light brown. This side's a little bit lighter than this side, so I could put just a little bit more. Maybe just rub it in a little bit more.
Okay.
It's
Yeah, it looks pretty good.
not too bad.
Yeah.
Definitely think this was book matched because there's kind of a line here and
Yeah,
And-
it probably was.
it's light on the ends.
Sure, yeah.
Just light on the ends.
On these little weird spots, you might take a tiny paintbrush and try to actually paint those exact lines in that round spots with the darker maybe, or maybe with this first. Maybe try it with this first.
Okay.
Just to try to leave it there. Don't wipe that off. It might make it blend a little bit better. And if that doesn't work, then maybe try the next darker shade. You know, the darker brown.
Okay.
And see what you think. I mean, you know, just leaving extra dye in those spots sometimes will make them darken up.
Yep. Well, that was the back. I'm going to go ahead and keep going with the sides and maybe some of the neck. Well, I've gone ahead and got the whole thing stained. Now that it's all stained, I'm going to start kind of prepping this for spraying the clear coat. I'm going to start that by actually filling this hole so we can put the usual hanger on it. I think we're going to have a lot better luck if we just fill it. For the long run, it opens up for more options. Just the best idea. Once I get that done, I can start filling the hole with some newspaper. Just trying to get this ready to spray. Well, it's probably been a big jump in video, but it's also been a really big jump in time. This old Martin has had quite a few thin coats of lacquer put on it. And I've already sanded it flat once. And we're going back to do it again. This time we're a lot closer to having all these grains filled with the lacquer. What I've got is some 400 sandpaper and some soapy warm water sitting over on the side. And I'm just trying to basically sand off all that I can without getting to the wood. Because we want the grains to be filled, but basically that's all the lacquer we want on it. It's just enough to fill the grains and then a thin coat to cover the whole thing and gloss it up. So I've got a lot of sanding ahead of me. I might give you a look when I get done sanding this time. So I'm back to working on this Martin. There are a couple of spots on the back that even after spraying this a bunch of times, sanding it back and spraying it again, I'm not quite getting them full. Most of them are around where there was maybe some damage, or like up here where we filled those two holes. So what I'm doing now is I'm just using a toothpick to get a little lacquer. I'm filling those holes with the lacquer. So when it dries, we can sand the whole thing and it'll be level and all those little deeper spots will be filled. So I'm going through and checking to make sure I get all the spots. Well, it's been a big jump between clips on this Martin. Big enough that I can't remember the last clip I made for this Martin. It's probably been over a month. I've been spraying it and sanding it and waiting. Or spraying it and waiting and sanding. And then spraying it again and waiting. You know, spraying it 4 or 5 times and then wait a week and then it's shrunk down to basically nothing. Basically we're to the point with this thing that we're going to try to call it good where it is. It's really showing that it's an old guitar we're trying to refinish. The bigger problem areas are all where it's been damaged. You know, the grains are filled for the most part. If this were a new instrument, we would be done with it. It would look great. The problem areas are all, you know, the cracks where the lacquer is just seeped in and shrunk, seeped in and shrunk. But, you know, I don't think, you know, in the next 3 to 4 months working on this, could we get those all the way full with lacquer. It's just not going to happen. So, I've got this to the point in which it's going to look like a nice, taken care of 70-year-old instrument rather than a brand new 70-year-old instrument. And I think that's okay. It's going to be leaps and bounds better than when it came in. So I've been wet sanding this with 600. And if you really want to get an idea what it's kind of going to look like, well, once it's all buffed out, while it's wet, gives kind of an idea. And I've got to say, it's looking pretty good. I'm hoping that we can get the bridge placed today, or have a rough idea where it's going to go. I don't remember if I've shown it, but I've made the bridge. You know, it's a very nice piece of rosewood. I also don't remember if I've shown it, but I've cleaned the pickguard up a little bit. It could probably be buffed out and it'd look really good. But if you want a quick idea what this is kind of going to look like, there you go. I'm really happy with the way the headstock is turning out. I'm not sure how good it looks in the picture with the way I've been sanding, but it looks really clean, and considering when this came in you could barely see the marten, and now it's, you know, very cleanly obvious what it is. I'm really happy with the way this is turning out. The name on the headstock, it's just looking really good. Now, it's been so long with this that I don't actually remember what I have underneath the tape. I think I was going to refret this, but I don't remember. And we're kind of to the point in which I'm going to have to pull it up to find out. And when I pull it up, I'm going to probably want to score the edges so that I don't go ripping up any finish. So I think I'm at the point in which I want to pull this tape off, see what I'm working with. If I'm going to refret it, I should probably just do it now, get a new nut on there, and then we can get the bridge placed. Because to get the bridge placed, I have to have a nut. And, you know, if I'm going to refret it, it needs a new nut. So it's kind of a order of operations. So I guess it's time to pull this tape off. Alright, so I'm going to be really careful with this, and I'm probably going to have to do most of the neck because I finished the neck. So I'm going to go ahead and do this off camera. I mean, you can see what I'm doing. I'm taking my X-Acto and just really carefully running where it, you know, the tape meets the finish. So I'm going to go ahead and do this off camera and then bring you back once I'm ready to.